Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this kid-free weekend. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
So, babe, we had a really interesting day and a really cool interview that we're about to play. Interview, conversation, whatever you want to call it. But I just wanted to give a little introduction to that because I think we're going to have a few people listening that have never listened to us before.
Welcome.
Welcome. So who are we and what are we doing here? So I'm Jeff. I have 2 kids.
I'm Jennifer, and I have 3 kids.
And so we have this big blended family.
We're like the Brady Bunch plus...
Minus 1.
Well, minus 1?
Yeah.
Yes, 1 minus 1 child. It's hard to count how many children we have sometimes.
Minus a child and a full-time maid, which would be amazing. But, yeah. So
let's get one more, and then we can get the full-time maid.
So when our kids are around, of course, we
take care of them.
whatever they need, and it has us all over the place all the time. But then every other weekend, we have a weekend where they are not around. Our kid-free weekends. So we have kid-full days and kid-full weekends, and then kid-free days and kid-free weekends. So it's the kid-free weekends where we have time to do silly things like podcast, which is what this is all about.
Right.
So we talk about a lot of different things, a lot of nerdy stuff and movies and the TV shows we love. And then we talk about...
sometimes pop culture, sometimes...
crazy dog that's jumping
our dog.
around.
She's trying... Here, baby.
Sophie, the kid-free dog, just wants to be part of the show. So anyway...
she's a little distracting, sorry. Okay.
So sometimes politics, and that's where we are today. There's a lot of crazy shit happening in the world, babe.
Yes.
We're tired of it, I guess. You know, we've had our fill of the crazy
I have
shit.
had my fill of politics. Unfortunately, I never thought that there would be a time when it had to be the central focus of everybody's lives.
Well, we're making it more of a central focus of our lives now because
we have to.
We want to do something. We want to help bring people together. So we started that today with someone that I met on Twitter a while ago, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know exactly who I'm talking about. A lady who goes by Ironhorse76 on Twitter, also known as Frankie, and we talked to her today. So the point of all this is we want to talk to more people, and we talk about this at the end of this conversation as well. But for this to work, for this to happen, for us to be able to build a community here as well as the one on Twitter, we want to have you guys click subscribe. You know, if you clicked a link in Twitter and it took you to a website, look us up on iTunes, look us up on Google Play Music. There's podcast apps all over the place, and there's the default ones that are in your phone's operating system. So just look us up, click subscribe, and keep in touch. You can reach us, of course, on Twitter. I'm at Pot of Thrones.
I'm at the Kid Free Weekend.
Nope.
At Kid Free Weekend.
You got it.
Yay. On Twitter.
And this will all be in the show notes. We have email. We have a website for the Pot of Thrones, Game of Thrones Central podcast. So we got the 2 different shows. But this is the one where we're going to talk about the Resistance. So here we have it. Voices from the Blue Wave. I give you Ironhorse76.
Cool.
Okay, so here on the line, we have Frankie, a.k.a. Ironhorse76 on Twitter. Frankie, thank you for joining us on the Kid Free Weekend.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So I have been fascinated by... Twitter, as far as I knew when I first got started, was just a place where you would go and watch celebrities say stuff. But it turns out it's so much more. So I've been really fascinated watching movements grow. And there's some that maybe I don't like so much, but this Trump resistance movement has really captured my attention. And you are a person that I have seen, I hope you don't mind me saying this, more as like you're almost like an organizer of sorts. And that fascinates me. But I'd like to know, Frankie, like, when did you join Twitter? Were you always in there for the politics? And if not, how did you get started being part of political Twitter?
Oh, gosh. I actually had my Twitter account for probably 9 years, and I never really got Twitter. I never understood why people would have things to tweet about, honestly, and I didn't, at the time, have that much to say, I didn't think. And it wasn't until really the Kavanaugh hearings that happened late last year that it really sparked something in me. I was very angry, of course, after Trump had gotten elected and was looking for an outlet, but didn't really know where to go. And then with the Kavanaugh hearing, something had drawn me back toward Twitter. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but it finally made sense to me. I don't know if you had that problem, but I just didn't get it for a long time. And all of a sudden it clicked, and I found this wonderful resistance force that was going on Twitter protesting everything Trump, and I absolutely loved it.
So, did I ever get Twitter? I don't know. Probably not. Twitter can be used for a lot of different stuff. I mean, Babe, when you first came on Twitter, you had a project in mind, did you not?
Right. Yes, I did. I wanted to do a day in a life of diabetes because my son's a type 1 diabetic, and people don't understand what that is or what it's like to live with. And I just didn't have time. Being a mom of 3, I just didn't have time to continue.
Yeah. Well, having a young diabetic son is exhausting.
It is. And I remember...
Yes, I can imagine.
One day I was like, I don't want to talk about this because it just makes it more there. You know, it makes it more present when I talk about those things. So I think I backed out.
Hey, you can always come back to it. I mean, I say...
I do a little bit.
There are people, I think, that can either be educated by stuff like that or know that they're not alone.
True.
So I encourage you,
I think that's, as do I. I think that's something that a lot of people really could use as a source of strength and a resource doing something like that personally. So I admire your effort to do that.
Oh, thanks.
I got on Twitter just to see what my favorite film director, Kevin Smith, was saying at any given moment. Probably not as great of a reason, but it is what it is. Eventually, there was a point where I was like picking fights with people from Gamergate. Are you familiar with that at all?
I'm not, no.
You should check it out because it's sort of peripherally related to how Trump got elected in the first place. It's a group of disaffected gamers, video gamers, who... It started with some accusation of like dishonesty in video game reviews and related to a particular female independent game developer. And it turned into a movement that is, well, I'll just say anti-woman. And just stalking and harassment. But the forces that drive that movement come from the same places like 4chan, the darker areas of the internet that also banded together to try to help promote Trump. And you know, Russia played its part too. But yeah, they're actually kind of related. There was a movement of people that wanted to see Trump elected because it would be funny.
Oh, yeah. That I have not heard.
You have not heard that? Oh, yes.
I actually have not. No, that it would be... I mean, I knew people who were doing it as a protest vote and people who did it just because they didn't think he would actually get elected. They thought Hillary had everything locked up and that it would never happen. And so it was just watching an absolute shock and dismay at the election results. And the next morning, having it on, I don't know if it was Morning Joe, if you watched that, it was just surreal. President Trump. And I almost couldn't breathe. I was just in disbelief. I thought perhaps I was still dreaming. I hadn't yet woken up. And somehow this was not the reality I was living in.
It's from a Simpsons cartoon. I mean, literally. I'm still when you or anyone else for the most part, but when you say President Trump, I don't even like saying it. It just feels bad coming off my tongue. They're words that don't belong together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
We were surprised too.
Yeah. This is the first time in my life I've ever actually been afraid from, anything. Anything could hurt us, even our own government now. It's so profound that you say that because that's how I feel. I feel very unsafe and I can't really pinpoint exactly why or where it's going to come from or what it's going to be. It's just an incessant feeling of uneasiness at all of the turmoil
and all the things around us that we really aren't safe. And our own president doesn't even support our own intelligence agencies. And what about the data that they're giving him? If it conflicts with something that's in his ego or in his gut, as he likes to say,
or his agenda,
is that going to jeopardize? Exactly. Thank you. Yes, the perfect word for it. Is that going to jeopardize our safety? Because he doesn't put anyone ahead of himself, and he certainly doesn't put the American people ahead of himself. It's all his agenda, as you've said, and it's solely guided by self-interest. So it's frightening. I don't have that feeling of safety that I had under Obama, and I would give almost anything to have that back. That just security that I'm safe. I'm home. I'm safe.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yes, and it's hard to know what to do about it. We just have to wait until 2020, I guess, because Trump is up. Mitch McConnell, I believe, is also up in 2020, and I don't know what on earth Kentucky is thinking with that. They're like the fifth poorest state in the nation, and they keep electing this clown, and I don't understand why. For the love of God, I don't understand why they keep doing it.
Well, I think part of it is, they're watching Fox News and nothing else. They don't get to hear reality.
And I'm sure it's not all of Kentucky by any means. I mean, most states, if you really try to map it out, are not red and blue. They're pretty solidly purple. And some states are like a red or purple than others, or a blue or purple than others. But like even California, which I think Hillary didn't even bother campaigning here, right? And Trump probably didn't bother campaigning here because no one cares because they know it's going to go blue. But it's not really a blue state. It really just depends on what part of California you're in. But overall, there's more population that voted for Hillary and tends to vote Democrat. I'm sure Kentucky, there's probably a lot of Fox News watchers, maybe a majority of them, and they just don't understand that there's an alternative to Mitch McConnell, or that they probably don't even know that he came out and said, like, trying to get more people to vote is an attack on democracy. Like, what the fuck was that about? But if that never gets reported and they aren't on Twitter, let's say, which really only a small fraction of the country is, then they just don't know. They'd probably just think, oh, he's an okay guy and I'm afraid of change.
Well, also they're listening to his rhetoric about how everything that has failed that he wanted to do has failed because of the Democrats. So
it's all Obama's fault.
That's just perpetuating those feelings in them.
Hey, let me ask you this, Frankie. Yeah. Have you been, I don't necessarily want to ask how old you are, but have you been sort of like a lifelong either Democrat or liberal or progressive or whatever kind of label you want to put on it? Or is that something that's changed over time?
No, it's something that has changed over time. I actually used to, I lived back in New York, upstate New York, not the city. And for the most part, my family was quite Republican, and I guess it just rubbed off on me. And I was so excited when I turned 18 because it meant I got to vote. It was just something that was instilled in me by my dad as a civic duty. When you reach that age, you go vote and do your thing. But no, I voted probably more Republican back in New York than anything else. And oddly enough, it was not until I relocated to Tennessee, this culture shock that I went through, that things felt like they evolved for me. I went back to school. First of all, I had one degree, but I went back for my MBA. And in the process of that, I learned such a great deal. It's like not just book smarts, but you learn how to learn. You learn critical thinking. You learn how to break things down and put them back together and decide for yourself what is real and what isn't, and what is factual and what's not factual. And that helped me a lot. That, along with seeing the uber Republican culture down here. I live in the Bible Belt as well, so that really didn't help me. And I didn't like what I saw. I don't like even the feeling around here. I am a blue speck in a sea of red. And so Twitter is actually my only sanity. It is the thing that kind of keeps me going. It's crazy to say that. I never thought I would say that, but it's the thing that really keeps me going day to day, that I can plug in with these people who make sense and can learn and can decide for themselves and aren't just Fox News zombies that everybody seems to be. And for me personally, that Republican voter mentality was something I had when I was 18 to, let's say, 27 or, thereabouts anyhow. I feel like I've grown up and left that type of thinking in the dust. And I do feel like a different person now with, I've got my head on straight is what it feels like. It feels like I finally get it and I'm finally doing what I'm supposed to do.
Mm. Yes, I can see a lot of people never actually reaching that level of realization. They just don't. It's hard. Life is really hard, and it's much easier just to be lazy and go along with the flow and not fight for things because they're wrong. And you're right. It's easier just to, you got to go to work. You got to feed your kids. You just keep going day to day and hopefully everything works out for the best.
Right. Yeah. And you're just in your little bubble. You've got your head down and, you're not really thinking about, 2 + 2 = 4 or things like that. And you're just doing your thing. And I don't think a lot of people do examine it or examine themselves really, or look at themselves to kind of see why do I feel this way? Or why do I do these things? Or why do I believe a certain way? So I wish more people did that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, what was your first presidential election that you got to vote in?
Oh, gosh.
I know that might if you don't want to answer that for it puts a chronological something on you, but if you don't mind.
Oh, no, it was back in the 90s. It's Bill Clinton was my first.
You got to vote for Bill. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember I actually had Ross Perot stickers because I was just this rebel back then, and I actually had contacted the Perot campaign, or they contacted me, and they're like, well, we've got these bumper stickers or this stuff if you want to hand it out. And I was like, okay, I'll do that.
So you were part of the first Clinton election, and you voted for Perot?
No, it was, I'm trying to even think what year.
That was the first Clinton election, wasn't it?
I graduated high school in 94. So that dates me right there. So I graduated in 94. And, but yeah, it was a great time. And I just, I think back, what really were the consequences of those elections back then? I feel like now it's life or death. Mm-hmm. And back then it was I really like this guy, but I kind of don't like that guy. And the consequences, it didn't really seem like there were. And now it's so dire.
Right.
Right. I almost don't have a word to describe how critically important it is now. And trying to help this resistance movement on Twitter, not to change the subject, but just trying to plug into that to get the momentum and get that blue wave going. Trying to just keep it together in whatever small part I can play going towards 2020.
I wish that we could abolish both, Democrats and Republicans and stop labeling that, because I feel like that automatically, if you're a Republican, you have to vote Republican. People feel that way. And I wish that if they just got rid of...
Well, it's the lazy choice.
Right.
Yeah,
because you could just vote straight party ticket.
People should learn about these people and find out who they're voting for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
Time.
And down here, right. But down here, there's a lot of times that there's not even a Democrat on the ticket for some of these little small county commissioner and alderman and mayor and things like that. There's not often even an alternative. They're all just Republicans, not to use the label again, but they all just have the same mindset with minor policy differences. That's the only thing. So for people who live in places like I do, it's like you're drowning and there's not even a choice.
Hmm.
So when you were living in Tennessee during this last election, however long you were living. Okay, so I'm just curious about, like, we're in a pretty mixed zone. Like I've always felt like we're in a pretty Republican area in Southern California in Orange County. And in fact, when I look at the electoral maps, our neighborhood went for Trump. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. But then in 2018, we got rid of Mimi Walters, who was a real big Trump supporter, and put in Katie Porter instead. And that was really awesome. But like, what's it like living in a place that's that red? I guess what I'm wondering, like, could you have put a Hillary Clinton bumper sticker on your car, or would that have made you? Would that have been like you could have been in trouble?
A target on you?
It depends. Yeah, it depends how much money I would have had for the body work that I would have had to repair on my car. Yeah, I don't know that I could have done it. It's they're so hardcore.
Yeah.
Down here. I think I'd be afraid. I would be afraid that somebody would do something to my car, or maybe want to do something to my house if I had a Hillary sign out by the road. In whatever manner, I feel like it would make me a target, if that makes sense. That is how intensely red things are down here.
And that means that you can't spread the message in real life. Like, you can't talk about your views or have a conversation of like, Trump's kind of crazy. Like, Democrat or Republican aside, like, he takes things to a whole new level of batshit. You can't have that conversation with people.
That's exactly right. I can't. I mean, I could look up and go to, a local Democratic, there are still some, thank God, Democratic organizations around here and things of that sort where you can go and meet with like-minded people. But outside of that, I can't think of a single person that I know offhand that I could have that conversation with. And particularly with me, my family are big MAGA supporters.
Oh my gosh.
Mom even went so far as having to order one of those MAGA hats that I just want to set on fire in the middle of the yard. And it's terrible. So my mom and my brother, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, are fantastic, around here. And I can't stand it. It's, I don't know what to do. I wish I had lived in an area where there was a little bit of a mix that I could go to a happy little blue bubble for a while for some like-minded people.
Sounds like a vacation is in order. Go to Seattle.
That's north of the Mason-Dixon, I think, would be safe.
Well, mostly. My family's all in Wisconsin, and at least half of them are MAGA hat wearers, or would wear a MAGA hat if they wore hats. But my sister, my brother-in-law, Babe, you've got...
Oh, yes, I do too. I have some family members. Yeah, right. People have unfriended. People have unfriended me in my family because of political beliefs. Yeah. It's crazy.
Which is really like, right. I mean, you're losing contact with that person. It really draws a line in the sand. Like, my sister unfriended me, which sounds like a silly thing to say out loud, but it really paints a picture of just where our communication is and how we really don't talk much anymore at all.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, too, when you start getting into the difference between Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, of course, you're connected by people that you know in real life, or, well, not even real life, but, friends, family, people you play games with and things like that. Whereas Twitter, you're connected by common interests. So I can't even get on Facebook anymore because I have so many Trump people on Facebook. I'm afraid to even post. I have former clients that are friends of mine on Facebook, family members. I can't post my, I guess I'm a raving liberal now by today's. I don't think I am. I think I'm a pretty sensible, moderate person, but by today's standards, I'm a raving liberal. And the other point is Trump is so divisive. He's like, I won. I'm the president and you're not. And the only people he cares about are the ones who voted for him. He is not a president for America. He is the president for the 30%, the 30% of the most ignorant, hateful, bigoted people on the face of not just our country, but in this entire world, on this planet. I feel like those are his voters. Is it just me? Because that's how I feel.
No. I think it's his voters are the ones that got him there, and with all the money, and Russia, of course.
Well, Trump's like bigger of he's a very small-handed part of a larger puzzle. But because like I don't know that I would call him a strong man, right? Like he's a bully that wishes he was a dictator for sure, but he's not there yet. Right now, he's just an idiot that happens to be our president. So obviously there's the people he looks up to. There's Putin and there's Kim Jong-un, right? You know, people like that are already out there, but it seems like either shitty minds think alike, or something about the Trump movement in America has emboldened other assholes around the world, because whether it's the stuff going on in England with Brexit, which was largely founded in bigoted and nonsensical beliefs, or Bolsonaro getting elected down in Brazil, which seemed like the worst possible choice. Like there's people coming up through the wings that are very Trumpian in nature, and it's a little worrisome, not just for our country now, but for the world. Like, what's going to happen when it's, people.
And I think that's why we feel scared, because it's getting taken over, really. Yeah. I was watching something yesterday where they said it's a coup. You get somebody in office that is going to exonerate you. You have your way out. He's just taken over.
Yes, he's emboldened, I feel. I mean, there's something, of course, with around the globe, this right-wing, ultra-conservative movement is pretty scary. And like you said, Brexit, but also it makes me think, when you said that, I immediately thought of the mosque shootings in New Zealand, where the shooter even mentioned Trump. And, the whole MAGA, the premise of MAGA and the white supremacists and things of that nature, that people like that are so emboldened. And when you look back home, too, there were attacks, was it Pennsylvania? I think it was Pennsylvania, the white supremacists. We've had not a foreign terrorist. We've had homegrown white supremacist terrorists taking out attacks here and around the globe. And it's because of Donald Trump is how I feel.
Because of he's supporting it. He doesn't come out and say they're wrong.
Oh, definitely not.
Yes, the dog whistle. Right. It's the dog whistle to all the people and any degenerate who thinks, sorry if I can say that, any degenerate who thinks that way, just that it's okay.
Well, you can say whatever you want here. I mean, maybe deplorables isn't a great word, but that guy in New Zealand, right? So one of the biggest things that he was trying to put out there that was like wrong with the world was that white people aren't having enough babies. And so white people are going to be replaced. And when as soon as you mentioned him and like how he talked about Trump, like the first thing that popped in my mind was the baby thing. And that immediately then took me to something that Jennifer and I were just talking about right before we started this podcast today, which was this idiot Mike Lee on the Senate floor. Was it the House of Representatives, wherever he is? I don't care about this guy, but he has this whole thing that just a couple days ago about how the way to solve the global warming crisis is for people to fall in love and make babies. And he had this like very like Benetton multicultural picture of babies, but it does make me wonder if that's.
I thought they were all white.
I don't think so. I don't think they were all white in that picture he had, but it does make me wonder if that's just not another part of the dog whistle campaign, which is like he knows that climate change won't be solved by having more babies, even though I can't follow the logic there at all. But somewhere in there, I just feel like it all kind of ties together into these little messages that are going out into the public to try to keep people, I don't know, emboldened or, make sure that they know who's on their side.
I don't know. It was just a waste of time.
Well, yes. And having more children certainly is the way to stop global warming by adding more people to the global populace on a planet that is straining just to survive, and the coral reefs that are dying and the species going extinct at 100 times the natural rate for our planet is absolutely terrifying for me. That's one of my big issues is climate change. So when he was saying, Mike Lee, that you just need to have more babies and, eat ice cream or whatever the hell it was that he said. I thought it's more like a cartoon. This can't be real life. I need to change the channel.
Right. I agree. It was like a skit from Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
That should be, if SNL has a new episode this week, it should be fantastic. I mean, they've got to open with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Oh, and they do. I think they came back for the season, didn't they? So there should be a good cold open tonight. I'm hoping.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, dang. What was I just thinking of? I lost my train of thought somewhere.
Having
babies. I've done that about 6 times since we've been talking. The thought just went right out of my head.
We were on babies and Mike Lee and what a waste of time it was. I don't remember now. Nah. All right. Who's got some?
Well, I've got a Twitter party going on. That's about the only thing I can talk about is I've got a Twitter party and I'm doing shout outs for people.
I want to talk about that.
That's my day today. Okay.
So I don't remember what my first stumbling across this whole resistance movement on Twitter was. I don't remember where I saw it first, but it intrigued me and I started Googling it. I was trying to figure out, what does the hashtag FBR mean? Because I see it all over the place all of a sudden and I don't get it. So I did wind up finding an answer on Google, and it stands for Follow Back Resistance. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
That means anybody who has any sense that is absolutely terrified of what is happening in our country and in our world is trying desperately to seek and unite with each other. That is what that means to me.
That's neat.
So, you have a solid number of Twitter followers. You're over 50,000 or something like that, I think, right?
Yes.
But you also follow 50,000 people.
I do. I try to follow everybody back that I possibly can. Yeah.
Including me. Thank you so much. So what I find interesting about that is just the way Twitter has changed from I signed on to Twitter because I wanted to know what Kevin Smith was saying. And then a couple other celebrities like Steve Martin's pretty interesting on Twitter. And, there's a few people here and there and you follow a few people. They're not going to follow you back because they're famous and you're not. But then when you log into Twitter, you see all the coolest things that those 5 or 6 or 20 people have just said. It's a very different world when you're following. I think I'm up to almost 4,000 people myself. And that's very different. And then sometimes I think is that really what Twitter's meant for? Probably not. Probably so. I don't know. But it is interesting that you are forming a community about it. You probably miss a lot of tweets from any one individual that you might find interesting, but there are 50,000 people out there that you are now connected to and will stay connected to through the 2020 election and hopefully beyond.
Yes. Yes, and I'm very much looking forward to it because it seems like almost every day we've got a new battle that's coming up and something else that we have to stay connected and communicate and try to work towards a common goal. And I expect that is just going to heat up and ramp up and just get bigger and bigger as we head into 2020.
Do you get exhausted from it all?
Sometimes I do. It feels like another job. And I get so many notifications and messages from people and just questions or can you help me or wanting to try to stay plugged into the people that I know a little bit personally and really like to follow. And with so many followers, I absolutely love them. And I'm so proud of this resistance movement and everything that it does and how hard it works. And there's just amazing people on there that I don't know how they do it. There are some huge accounts that just fight from morning till night about this resistance that I don't know how they do it, quite honestly. But I really don't like Nick Spocky. Nick Spocky is absolutely huge, and he tries to follow back everybody that he possibly can, and he's got 250,000 followers, I think.
That's a lot.
And he was one of the original resistance fighters, actually.
Maybe we should get him on the show.
I think he would be a good, he really is the go-to for things that you need to know. And super nice guy, absolutely super nice. And, luckily I've had the privilege of being able to DM with him a little bit. And even though he's got buku followers, he's still very down to earth and very, very accessible. So I think he would be great for your show, quite honestly.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll totally look him up. Mick Spocky. I think I actually do follow him. Okay, so with all of that, do you find it hard at all to actually stay on top of the current events? Do you think it ever gets drowned out in like maybe a million people yelling about the Mueller report findings, and then maybe something else slips through the cracks, which I think is what they're trying for. Like, we're going to take away healthcare now.
Right.
Redirecting. Do you think you're able to stay on top of what's actually going on out there?
I think so, and here's why. Because I watch Rachel Maddow, and she is a big believer, isn't she, in watch what they do, not what they say. And so right now, when you mention healthcare, you can turn on TV and see clips of Trump saying the Republican Party is going to be the party of healthcare. And these people are just these, mindless people that have no concept of what is going on. They are cheering and thinking that this is actually something that's going to happen. And they don't realize how many lawsuits the Trump administration currently has open trying to take away and dismantle the rest of Obamacare or the ACA, which I have to say, had the Republicans not attacked that legislation and left it intact as it was written and intended, we wouldn't be even having these problems with ACA as far as the funding or premiums going up and any other problems. The way it was written had a couple of kinks, but it was mostly okay. But it was the Republicans trying to dismantle it a piece at a time that has caused so much damage. And so, getting off on a tangent, sorry about that.
No, please.
But Twitter actually helps me stay plugged in because, we're all screaming about the Mueller report, but then I'll see people talking about ACA and other things that maybe I didn't see on the news or I didn't watch Maddow the night before, so I don't know. And it's kind of becoming my go-to source for things that I need to stay on top of and look into and research. That's a big thing. You got to research for yourself and find the data before you go off squawking about things. That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
We know all the stuff that we've heard about the Mueller report is nonsense because no one's read it yet, probably including Barr. But that all said, Trump's taking his quote-unquote victory lap. Since you know so many bright red people, do people really think that like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to try to take away cows? Do people really believe that? Because they're cheering when he's at the rally saying they're going to take your cows away and your airplanes away and all that. But do they believe that?
Yes, I can tell you that people really believe that. And my brother, who is visiting this weekend, is actually one of them. He believes it. And when the subject of global warming came up, he thinks that is still a hoax. There is no such thing as global warming. He says back in the 70s, there was a thing called global cooling that was also, I don't care what you say or what data you give him. It's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. It just does not work well. But they absolutely do believe that. And it's mind-boggling. My brother is an Alex Jones fan. He thinks that Sandy Hook had child crisis actors. What universe are you living in?
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say about it. It just blows my mind.
I'll just say I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Because Fox News is bad, but at least you have the occasional spurt of good from like a Shepard Smith who will say, I was so my heart was warmed when he did that, just that little sign off where he said, guys, this caravan thing it's not going to hurt us. We're not being invaded. That's not a problem. There are some people that still have some sense, a little bit, on Fox News, but Alex Jones is a different kind of game.
Well,
it's a whole other kind of nut.
Yes. Now, but so just this morning I was looking at news and it says that the Texas border is now at an emergency state and hundreds of thousands of migrants are crossing the border.
Hundreds of thousands today?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but can't people just go see and then have it on the television and post that as news? There's nobody here at our borders, or maybe there is.
Well, if you turn on MSNBC and they've got people camped out down there and it is showing that there is nothing at the border. I can't think of what the name of that was. It McAllen, Texas, or something like that. It was this little border town that was voted like the safest or the happiest town in all of Texas or something like that. Cute little town, and was supposedly right on the border, right on the battleground, right where all of this was supposed to be happening. There were cameras everywhere, just camped out watching. Nothing was happening. And we can see that nothing is happening. There's tangible proof that nothing is happening. But if you turn on Fox News, they have sent somebody down to videotape the caravan or something with somebody waving a flag, which I don't even know if that actually happened. I know Fox said it did. And people get terrified. So there's just this cognitive dissonance, this perfect disconnect between what's in Fox world and what's not. But yes, Jeff, you said about Shepard Smith saying you don't have to be afraid tonight, the caravan isn't coming to get you, was about the only sensible thing I've heard on Fox News.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rare, like maybe once a year.
Right?
But it's still an option, technically. Technically. They'll report a little bit of news. I mean, if Trump, I don't know, if Trump got arrested for, I don't know, the Jeff Epstein pedophilia stuff. Like, if someone came for him from New York or Florida because of that, Fox News would still report on it. Alex Jones, I don't know. He'd probably just say that Trump was going undercover, and it was all he wasn't
part of his plan.
Wasn't really brought in. He was going in on purpose so that he could infiltrate the prisons and find out more about the pedophilia, everything. I mean,
exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. Alex Jones. Boy. I just don't even know what to say about him. He's a nut bar.
It's just insane it's insane that people just believe it.
Yeah.
Well, like my brother believes it, and he's a former Marine, and I don't know if it has something to do with having to follow orders or, you just find, I don't know if I can say this, but like religious groups and evangelicals and things like that. I don't know if it's a certain mindset that falls for this Trump thing, that they're just used to. I don't know. I don't even really know what I'm trying to articulate here.
Right.
But am I making any sense? I mean,
you are for sure.
Yeah, of course you are. When it comes to religious groups, I think it always comes down, or I won't say always, but almost always comes down to leadership within any particular sect. And that could be your commander in the military. That could be the head of your church or synagogue or whatever it is. Because I think it's just a matter of people abusing their position of authority. And that's the same kind of stuff that, like, I hate to say it, but like Osama bin Laden did that. Like, he abused his position of authority. I'm sure he didn't think that all Americans were going to come murder your children. But if you tell people that and they think that you are an authority on the subject, then they'll follow you. And exactly. I think when you have people at the top of churches, let's say, saying that Trump was sent from God to save America, there's if you have this big congregation in front of you and they've been listening to you and trusting you for years, then they're probably going to give those words some credence, even though it's absolutely fucking nuts. I mean, of anybody, like, he could be maybe sent from God as an example of all 7 deadly sins wrapped up into one bloody being.
Thank you.
But that's more of like an abject lesson. Maybe
yes.
he was sent to us as a punishment. I could go for that.
Yes, I tend to agree. This is some kind of punishment, and I'm wondering what we've all done to deserve this.
But the conservative movement co-opted religion a long time ago, and the Democrats never really fought back on that. Which I think is a big mistake. Like, I work with a guy who has been fairly conservative his whole life. He's very, very religious, maybe one of the most religious people I know. Very, the Bible is truth kind of thing. And he still gets it. Like, he has an education. He's exposed to more than the Fox News and Drudge Reports of the world. And he still looks at Drudge Report and he still thinks CNN's terrible, but he also understands that Trump is the opposite of holy. And there's something wrong here.
But he's signing Bibles. Did you see that?
Oh my gosh.
Signing Bibles? How did that happen?
No.
Sorry, that is Sophie, the kid-free dog. She got worked up with the whole Bible thing. Sophie, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have any of those Bibles here. Okay.
Sophie. Hi, Sophie.
Yes, signing the Bibles. Isn't that blasphemy? Or I don't know. It seems like it's not supposed to happen.
It is. I think it is blasphemy. I mean, you want to talk about being a heretic. I think that's the way to do it. And I don't know who put that thought in his head, but he really thinks he is, I think, God or a God or something. And what concerns me, not to get off on a tangent, but I think that his whole psychological makeup is extraordinarily dangerous. His malignant narcissist is a diagnosis that's been thrown around, and I tend to believe that. And the fact that he can be massaged and manipulated so easily by these horrible, evil, adversarial world leaders that we've got is absolutely terrifying. And segueing into Helsinki, where he and Putin met without any third parties, none of our intelligence people. He told his interpreter to rip up her notes.
Right.
There's no record of what happened there. So
why is nobody saying anything about that? I haven't heard one word about that.
It's old news, man.
I know,
there's
but
so
it's
many
a
things
huge
that hit
deal.
us every day, and I think that's intentional so that we can never stay too focused on one of the misdeeds. We get distracted and move on to the next
that's
one.
true.
Yeah, I agree. And he does it. And a lot of the press during the day is got their eye on the shiny object. And that's what they talk about. You know, we're maybe not talking about the Affordable Care Act. We're not talking about climate change. We're not talking about how the Trump administration is stacking the judiciary with all of these ultra-conservative federalist judges that they've got. And here we are, we're about to have a few things go possibly to the Supreme Court about the Mueller issue. And who do we have on the Supreme Court now but the frat boy, Kavanaugh?
Right.
What are you supposed to do? We don't even have the judiciary. The Republicans and the Trumpists and the conservative, whatever you want to call it, they have everything but the House of Representatives is how I feel. Yep. And I'm absolutely terrified of that.
And what happens when Ruth Bader's gone?
Well, here,
we're just going to do Weekend at Bernie's with her. We're going to prop her up with some sunglasses, and we're just going to sit her in her chair because I don't know what's going to happen when she goes.
I took a couple law classes once. I'll write some opinions. It's all good. You just
okay.
You keep her sitting upright. I'll do some typing.
Well, we're going to do something. That's all I can say.
I feel like there is just the smidgenest of hope on the Supreme Court in that you do have like Chief Justice John Roberts, who is a diehard conservative, but I get the feeling that he's still an American. And there is a line to be drawn there. Trump's not really an American. He's clearly beholden to other powers. And I think we've seen that some of the other people at the very top are as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about everybody. Mike Pence, I think, is just an asshole. I don't think Russia has any dirt on him necessarily. But there are some that are kind of obvious.
Like the whole Trump family.
Dana Rohrabacher was one of our representatives here in California, and thank God he got voted out. But he was all signs, without any proof that is currently admissible in court. Like, there were a lot of signs pointed to him literally being a Russian asset. And the NRA's been infiltrated by Russia, and the NRA's buying up our politicians left and right. It comes from all sides, but there are still some people out there, maybe John McCain was one of them, hopefully John Roberts is one of them, that are not quite, that can't be purchased by those external forces. Maybe still
holding the line.
Still holding the line on at least, this is America. Well, Mueller, like that's what we all expect out of Mueller, and I think we got that, and I think we'll still learn more about it, hopefully very soon. But like Mueller is a guy where if we were just like having coffee with him and wanted to know his thoughts on gay marriage and prayer in schools, and like he's a lifelong Republican, we probably won't see eye to eye in every issue. But at the end of the day, he is a true American, and he was someone that we could trust to not try to cover up Russia influence.
Yes.
Those people still exist. It just seems like a lot of them are cowed by Trump's popularity.
Well, I think a lot of them, like Frankie, probably feel like they have a target on themselves. If they speak up, you're going to get everybody hating you.
Yeah. And ultimately, that just means you won't get reelected. And unfortunately, that's too important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they all feel that, they absolutely have to be reelected at any cost. Mm-hmm. But what's the cost?
Right. America's freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we're standing by, and all of these things are happening. I feel like the world is on fire, and we're just not doing enough. I don't know if you feel that way, but I just feel like the bomb is ready to explode. The clock is ticking, whatever metaphor you want to use. And what can you do? You just can't do enough quickly enough.
Right. Or be effective at all, because we're outnumbered.
Who's outnumbered?
Well, I mean,
you
all
feel
we
like
have,
you are.
Right. But all we have is the House.
Well, right, but we did make gains there, and I think this goes to a good point that we can maybe tie all this together with, and then let Frankie get back to her brother, who I'm sure misses her,
terribly.
Which is like, what can we do? Like, we saw some great stuff happen in 2018, and we took the House of Representatives and took it pretty solidly, thanks to the movements that are happening. And it's by no means just Twitter, although Frankie, you get a lot of credit, but. It's not just Twitter, but it's just little movements happening all over the country, and registering people to vote and making sure that they come out to vote on voting day. So
they know how important, right?
Frankie is trying to coordinate people and get people to see each other and know that they're out there and not feel alone, and share news and just generally commiserate and bond. And that's that's what we're doing here now, is that since we happen to have a digital platform, why don't we use it? We've talked politics on this show before over the years. And then when Trump hit, and I think it just kind of knocked us out, like, for a while. But if we have a 2020 campaign heating up, it's so far away, but it's here, it's coming. We should try to just start spreading the message. I want to get to know more people like Frankie, who are just normal people in the world, trying to understand each other and trying to find each other. And we got to stay motivated, because that 2020 election's a long ways away, but we got to get everybody energized and make sure that we all go out and vote. Mm-hmm. It's the only way we can save us.
Exactly. And one of the things I'm going to be working on next, I just barely touched on it the other day, is focusing on Florida, because that has turned into being such a critical,
I saw you doing that.
State. Yeah, and was trying to coordinate with another resistor that lives down there, and we've just sort of missed each other. You know how that goes. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to get something together where every county has a Democratic party, or a voting, where to register to vote or how to register to vote, so that we can tackle Florida in some kind of meaningful way, instead of putting out a tweet that says everybody in Florida go vote blue or whatever. You actually are putting out a resource that tells people where to go, who to call, what address to go to, and start targeting it really county by county until you've put the whole state back together blue. And that's what I'm going to be trying to do.
Man, and Florida is so close. They're right there. I mean, they elected an asshole as governor, but they also voted to actually let people that have paid their debt to society have voting rights again. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge step for Florida, which every day there was that Florida man. Did you do the Florida man challenge that was trending?
I absolutely did the Florida man. It was my birthday. I think my guy was attacked by a crazed squirrel gone nuts. I think that was my Florida man highlight for that day.
So Jennifer doesn't get on Twitter very often anymore. She's been off it for a number of months now, so she doesn't know what's going on. So, babe, I'm going to put you to the challenge here right now. Grab your phone.
I don't have it.
Oh, damn it. Well, my phone is busy running this podcast. Shit. Okay.
I'll do it after.
I guess we'll do it after, but we'll have to make sure you post it on Twitter.
Okay.
So it was Google type in Florida man, and then
Florida
just
man.
your birthday, which in your case is March 1st, and then just hit enter and see what the fuck happens. So mine...
That's it. Yep. Florida man, March 30th or whatever, March 1st, whatever it may be, and see what comes up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, mine for September 19th was a man who burned down his house after trying to... I'm sorry, I should add an extra adjective in there. A naked man who burned down his house. I had to find you got to fit that naked part in there somewhere because it seems important. A naked man burned down his house after trying to bake cookies on a George Foreman grill.
Oh my God.
Well, we just saw how you can make eggs on a waffle iron.
True, there was a YouTube video for that. But we'll try it. But let's not be naked at least. If the house lights on fire, you don't want to run outside in our neighborhood. Come on.
Oh my God.
So Florida's got a reputation for being a little bit cuckoo. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all bad people. In fact, I know people down in Florida who are wonderful people with really good heads on their shoulders, but they've been drowned out for a while now. And now so Florida has voted to re-enfranchise something like 1 million people, which is awesome. And we cannot say that just because those people got re-enfranchised in Florida that they're going to vote blue. There's no reason that we should assume that. But we do know every honest source that you will look at will show you that when you don't look so much at voting records, but just look at polling of what people believe in their core, most people, a majority of people skew liberal, which is what people like Mitch McConnell are really afraid of. That's and that's what they were afraid of down in Florida too, when they voted to keep felons from voting after they were released from prison. And that all dates back to post-slavery fucking shenanigans. So it's great that Florida's done that, but it's not going to do any good if those people don't get registered, right? So
exactly.
So Frankie, you're trying to work on an organization movement to get that information more visible.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, to get people registered so they know where to vote, possibly learn something about their candidates if we get to that part of the organizing. I don't know if we will, but we're going to try. And that's exactly what we need to do. You're correct.
So now it's hard to believe that anyone listening to this doesn't already know who you are, Frankie. But just in case, because you are spending a lot of time, a shocking amount of time, and it blows me away, helping organize people that want to resist Trump, that want to try to turn things in a better direction come this next election cycle. Where can they find you?
Where can they find me? Well, I'm Ironhorse76 on Twitter, and just come ahead and follow me, and I will follow you back, and together we will get this done one way or the other for 2020. We're going to make things happen, and we are a family. That's one thing I like to emphasize on Twitter is we're all in this together, and we really are brothers and sisters, and we're a family on here.
It's true.
It really is true. And it's been a great feeling.
Yep. Yeah, we are. Every single person in the world is related.
Agreed.
The one thing that's worried me a little bit is that I do see people saying, like, I'll vote for this person, but never this person. And I hope that over the coming months that we can try to make sure that that's not going to be a problem. Like, I think we should all try to agree that anybody that's going to come out of the Democratic primary is going to be a better alternative to 4 extra bonus years of this orange ass clown. Yes.
Vote blue, no matter who, is something that I'm going to be starting to push. And the only split I see is with the Bernie people, and some that say if it's Bernie, I'm not going to vote for him. Yeah. And I would respond and say, well, who are you going to vote for? You going to go third party? Are you going to do another little friggin' protest vote like you did in 2016? Because look where that got us. We have got to stand united and just literally vote blue no matter who for the presidential election.
And at this point, you're not backing any one specific candidate, right?
Correct. Yes, I'm just sitting back and I'm learning and I'm trying to get to know them the best that I can and let it unfold and just study, research, and observe at this point. And I think one thing we need to do, we're all going to have our favorite little candidates and, possibly cliques and things like that within the resistance. But it's very important not to tear another person's candidate down drag them through the mud, because you don't know, that might be our nominee that we have to all rally behind in 2020 to get Trump the hell out of there. So we really need to do our best to be respectful to one another and listen to one another and try to find the positive and support candidates, and try to tell people why your candidate is better or why you believe in them rather than tearing somebody else's down. I think it's very important that we do that.
I agree.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
That's a big problem right now.
Very well said. So thank you, Frankie. That's at Ironhorse76 on Twitter. Babe, are you going to be back on Twitter anytime soon?
Kid Free Weekend at Twitter.
At Kid Free Weekend on Twitter. And of course, you can find me at Pod of Thrones, our other podcast where we talk almost exclusively about Game of Thrones, which has nothing to do with this, but it's just what my Twitter handle is. So there we have it. And listen, the last thing I guess I want to say is we want to hear from more people. So I've reached out to Frankie. I'm going to reach out to Mick Spocky and some other people that I've seen posting really interesting stuff around Twitter. But we're happy to talk to anybody, because that's really what this is about. This isn't about trying to nail down celebrities and try to score interviews with politicians, though, you know, if some of them want to come on the show, I'd be happy to. But this is about trying to talk to the people that make up the blue wave, and just not be isolated anymore. Let's just know who each other are. Let's know what we're all about. And we're going to see a really interesting picture painted, I think, of all types of people all around the country. So let me know. Shoot me a message or a tweet. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. Right, babe?
Of course.
Cool. You can talk to her too.
Sure.
She's much, much better than I am at most things. But
it's true.
But she hasn't been on Twitter very much recently, so we're going to try to get her back.
All right.
So there we go. Frankie, thank you so much. You've been extremely generous with your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
This could not have gone better, especially for our first 2020 political blue wave podcast, whatever we're going to call it. So, yeah, you've been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm honored. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure again.
Have a great day or evening.
Thank you.
It's later there.
And tell your your brother we said hi.
Yeah.
I will do that. He'll be thrilled. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.